Get your cup of coffee, cup of tea. This is going to be a long report. I'm going to be giving you as much information as I can right up until next week, at least Monday, Tuesday. So we're looking at the partial solar eclipse in South Africa. It's going to be taking place at 21:50, which is 10 to 10 p.m. on the 21st of September. And the thing about the eclipse season is that the last date where it delivers the news from this eclipse that we've been experiencing for the last six to 8 weeks, the last bit of news that gets delivered is the 22nd of October. So we're still in it. We're still in that energy. We're still collecting information. We're still experiencing the abruptness and the change of these eclipses right up until the 22nd of October. So remember, when we're looking at our chart, it makes a lot more sense, when I'm talking about the planets, the transiting planets in the sky and where they're hitting in your chart. It obviously makes a little bit more sense. If you don't know your chart, then this will kind of make sense. I'm sure that most of us are feeling it on some level in some area. So the partial solar eclipse is taking place in the sign of Virgo. It is at a crisis point and heretic degree at 29 degrees of Virgo. So both the moon and the sun are in Virgo at 29 degrees. Remember, and heretic degrees are very, very tense because it's such a crisis point. So as much as we want it to be fabulous, it depends on what your chart is. Like, where is the moon and the sun in Virgo in your chart? What is your Virgo house? What other aspects are happening with the transiting planets that are making hits in your chart? That would explain the intensity of the abruptness, how big the new beginning is, how big the ending was. So I would also at this point like to remind you, if you have crystals, this is a great time to cleanse your crystals. So what I normally do is I take all my crystals, I put them at the windowsill, and we just leave them there for a space of 24 hours so that they absorb all that beautiful feminine energy from the moon and all that beautiful masculine energy from the sun. So 24 hours, you leave your crystals at your windows or even outside if you want. And then also we've got the spring equinox on the 22nd of September. So that just means that the sun moves into Libra. So happy birthday to all our Libras on the 22nd of September. And in the southern hemisphere, of course, it's a spring equinox. And what is Libra about? When we look at the spring equinox and the sun moving into Libra, it's all about fairness and justice, especially when it comes to our one-on-one relationships. We want to create balance and harmony. The sun in Libra is not the happiest either, so it does need a little bit more awareness so that we're not so much in our ego. Ego is all about fear. So let's choose love instead. Right, back to the eclipses. There is also the fabulous fixed star Regulus, which is at 29 degrees in Leo. So how lucky is it for you if you have any 29 degree planets in Leo, because that is a sure sign of success and material achievement. So the sun in Virgo at 29, the moon in Virgo at 29, they are conjunct. So the moon wants to experience flexible boundaries. The sun in Virgo can be quite critical. The sun can be quite critical and quite judgmental. And because the sun and the moon are now talking, there is definitely this opportunity for cooperation. As tense as the degrees are at 29, that aneretic, it still is opening up an opportunity for us to use our awareness, less ego, more emotion, drop the head to the heart. With the sun and the moon in Virgo, they're once again making a hard aspect to our Chiron in Aries, who's retrograde, opposite Saturn in Pisces retrograde. So these hard aspects are about revisiting old wounds. They are revisiting structures that need to be broken down and repaired or fixed, or even better, making new structures available. So wherever that wound is, it can also very possibly be old father wounds, or possibly something comes up with your father. The moon and the sun are still going to be sextiling our Mars in Libra and sextiling our Juno in Scorpio, I beg your pardon. So there's this relationships want us to take action. So what relationship have you been feeling the most tense about, the most stressed about? So is it the relationship you have with yourself? Is it with your partner? Is it with a business partner? Is it with a work colleague? Is it with your money? Anything we're emotionally attached to, we're having a relationship with it. So it can be my job, my car, it can be my husband, it can be my family, my friends, anything that I'm emotionally attached to, that is a relationship. And the Libra Mars wants to take action, and Libra is insisting that we do it in a very fair and just way. And Mars then moves into Scorpio on the 22nd. So on the 22nd of September, Mars moves into Scorpio. And Mars in Scorpio is a good thing, because Mars is the ruler of Scorpio. We now need to look at, again, in your chart, what are the aspects of Mars at 1 degree or 0 degrees as he's moving, as he changes signs at 0 degrees. What else is he touching in your birth chart? Because according to those aspects, we will know whether it's a backstabbing situation, whether you're the one yielding the sharp knife and ready to backstab somebody else. We will only know if Mars is going to give you good action, if you know what your chart is and where those aspects are. Otherwise, Mars in Scorpio with hard aspects can really bring about not so favorable conditions. Remember that Virgo is the sign of being in service. So when we look at the Chaldean order, Virgo is in the 6th house, which is how I am in service to my health, how I am in service to my work. It's also my pet's house. So everything about this solar eclipse is happening in that area of your life. It is really a great time if we wanted to start something new, like a new health routine, a new gym routine. Great day to start that on the 21st of September. We might also, depending on the aspects that that the moon and the sun are making in that 6th house, it might bring up health issues for us to look at, and now look at how do we do something new? Can we create something different? Because the 6th house is also in traditional astrology, we call the 6th house the house of illness. It generally does have to do with either the pet's health or our health, or something that we need to look at that needs our attention. And with Mars in Libra, it is all about, this aspect is all about looking at how, because it's a hard aspect, or rather it's a semi-sextile, forgive me, in Libra. It's really something is coming up. A semi-sextile gives us the idea that something is emerging. So by now we can see what it is that is emerging, and then I trust that we can sort that out. It also, Mars in the moon and the sun are also sextiling Juno in Virgo. So here is again about how we relate to others, our relationships with others. And it's a nice aspect, it's an opportunity. When we look at this, with Chiron, with Saturn, with Mars, with Juno, and they're all talking with the sun and the moon. Some really are speaking very strictly and very harshly. Some are giving us opportunities. It's about using your awareness, taking in what's coming up, and using that opportunity to make things better for yourself and for others, of course. Virgo is also about being analytical. Virgo is also about putting systems in place. So when we look at the sun and the moon and it's in Virgo, it's really highlighting, it's shining the light where we need to see it the most. It's saying, this is the area of my life that I need to put more things into a more practical way of doing things, a more practical way of expressing myself, a more practical way of cooperating emotions versus head. So again, how we feel versus our ego. Remember that Saturn in Pisces struggles with boundaries. So it does get very frustrating and very uncomfortable over the next few weeks while he's there. Because Saturn is all about discipline, structure, and boundaries. He's in Pisces, which has no boundaries. So it really is a very uncomfortable feeling. However, it's giving us a lot of information about what we need to change and possibly put boundaries in place with. When I look at our 22nd of September chart, there's our lovely Uranus. Where is he? Here he is in Gemini. And he's at 1 degree. And he's also retrograde, and he kind of blindsides our lovely Mars, which enters at 0 degrees into Scorpio. So there's still this shocks and surprises. So that to me is like the backstabbing, or the, who am I about to backstab in return? And of course, it's also making an impact to Pluto and Neptune. So we've got our Scorpio Mars hitting Uranus in Gemini, Neptune, who is in Aries, and Pluto, who's in Aquarius. Pluto is death and transformation. That is the planet of death and transformation. So until we can say yes to death, metaphorically, we can only then say yes to life. So this is about us moving into these new beginnings and also accepting that the end is the end. As harsh as it is, acceptance is our freedom. And, we are human beings on this planet. And of course, it is a very difficult thing for most of us to accept changes, especially when there are endings. But that is really the key to your freedom now. Because Pluto is going to give us that transformation that we need, whether we like it or not. Uranus is about shocks and surprises. Neptune is about the deception, the fantasies. So there is the truth that's being revealed. When we look at the aspect of how Mars is touching all three of them, the truth is being revealed. And with that truth being revealed, this is our opportunity to take action from a place of love rather than ego, because Mars in Scorpio can be very egoic, very intense, and forget that something called love actually exists. So let's look at that. It's got a slight little, it's within orb of the moon as well, which is going to move into Libra on the 22nd of September. So there's the buried feelings that are coming up, like we're really digging deep, and these feelings are coming up and they need our attention. With Mars moving in Scorpio, it takes us a little bit longer, because Scorpio is a fixed sign. So it takes us a little bit longer to act. Scorpio Mars in Scorpio can also be a bit manipulative. So we need to look at what kind of transformations are possible, because they have already started becoming light for us. In other words, the light of the moon and the sun from those eclipses have already brought into our space exactly which areas of our lives need change. So very much about the truth. What's the truth? The fantasies that have been destroyed. Reality is finally hitting us. And on a personal level, never mind on a global level, but on a personal level, these eclipses are always about how we are going to evolve as a species. How do we evolve as a human being? What's ruling us? Is it our ego that's ruling us, which thrives in fear? Or are we going to learn to merge our world ego with our soul center, our heart? That's really the biggie of all of this. A lot of being on this planet has to do with material achievement, of course, and love achievement. That's the two most common questions I have with clients is my love life, my finances. And as we get older, I think our health also becomes an issue. So all of these areas, all three of these areas are being highlighted right now. And it is giving us the opportunity to choose the love tree versus the fear tree. I wish that you have a glorious solar eclipse, because it is about new beginnings. And, putting our trust in and our faith in something that is great, like the divine, the great creator, and knowing that we are absolutely not separate from that. We are part of that. We can definitely move into creating something in our lives that we can be proud of, that we can look and say, finally, I've let this go. Finally, I am doing the work that I need to do in order to move into this new space in my life, this new area of my life. So I wish you a fabulous day, a glorious solar eclipse. I pray that all miracles find you, and we will definitely be talking soon. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.